Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming together today to explore a topic that challenges us to reevaluate the way we interact with the world. Stop being so soft to everyone. Now, before we dive into this, let's clarify what we mean by soft. This isn't about kindness or compassion, both of which are essential in a world that thrives on human connection. Instead, this is about the tendency to avoid confrontation, to overextend our boundaries, and to appease others at the cost of our own well-being. Redefining strength is not just about revising our understanding of what it means to be strong. It is about transforming the very framework through which we see ourselves and others. Too often, strength is equated with power, dominance, or the ability to suppress emotions and avoid vulnerability. We have been conditioned by societal norms to believe that to be strong is to be impenetrable, unyielding, and impervious to pain. Yet this notion of strength is not only incomplete but also damaging. It limits our potential for growth, connection, and authenticity. To redefine strength, we must shift our perspective and recognize that true strength lies in courage, resilience, and the willingness to be vulnerable. The first step in redefining strength is to challenge the traditional narrative. For centuries, strength has been depicted as stoic endurance, the ability to carry burdens without showing any sign of struggle. This image is deeply ingrained in our culture, from the silent hero archetype in stories to the expectation that leaders must always appear in control. However, this version of strength often leads to isolation and burnout. When we suppress our emotions to appear strong, we deny ourselves the opportunity to process and heal. We create a facade of invincibility which not only distances us from others, but also from our true selves. Authentic strength requires us to embrace our humanity, and humanity is inherently messy. Life is filled with challenges, uncertainties, and setbacks. Pretending otherwise does not make us strong, it makes us disconnected. True strength is found in the ability to confront these difficulties with honesty and openness. It is about saying, this is hard and I need support, or I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn. This kind of strength demands vulnerability, which is often misunderstood as weakness. In reality, vulnerability is one of the most courageous acts we can undertake. It requires us to take risks, to expose our authentic selves, and to face the possibility of rejection or failure. But it is through vulnerability that we build resilience and foster genuine connections. Resilience is a key component of redefined strength. It is not about never falling, it is about rising every time we do. Resilience acknowledges that setbacks and failures are an inevitable part of life, rather than avoiding or denying them. Resilience teaches us to learn from these experiences and grow stronger as a result. This process is not linear, nor is it easy. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to embrace discomfort. But in doing so, we discover an inner fortitude that no amount of suppression or avoidance can provide. One of the most significant barriers to embracing this new definition of strength is the fear of judgment. We worry that if we show vulnerability or admit to struggles, others will perceive us as weak or incapable. This fear is rooted in societal expectations and the stigmatization of emotions. Yet when we look closely, we see that the people we admire most are often those who embody vulnerability and resilience. They are the ones who share their struggles openly, who take risks despite the fear of failure, and who inspire others through their authenticity. By redefining strength in our own lives, we create a ripple effect that encourages others to do the same. Redefining strength also involves setting boundaries. For many, the traditional notion of strength involves self-sacrifice, the idea that we must always put others' needs ahead of our own. While generosity and empathy are important, they should not come at the expense of our own well-being. True strength is knowing when to say no, when to protect our energy, and when to prioritize self-care. Boundaries are not walls, they are bridges that allow us to engage with others in healthy and sustainable ways. They ensure that our relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding rather than obligation or resentment. In addition to setting boundaries, redefined strength calls for self-awareness. This means taking the time to understand our values, needs, and limits. It means recognizing when we are operating from a place of fear or insecurity and choosing to respond with intention rather than reaction. Self-awareness empowers us to navigate challenges with clarity and confidence. It also allows us to show up authentically in our relationships and communities. Another important aspect of redefined strength is the ability to ask for help. This goes against the grain of traditional strength, which often glorifies independence and self-reliance. While it is important to cultivate personal responsibility, it is equally important to recognize that we are not meant to navigate life alone. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it is a testament to our courage and humility. It demonstrates that we value connection and understand the strength that comes from collaboration. Redefining strength also requires us to embrace empathy. Empathy is often seen as a soft skill, but it is, in fact, a profound source of power. It allows us to understand and connect with others on a deeper level, to navigate conflicts with compassion, and to lead with integrity. Empathy does not mean absorbing others' pain or sacrificing our own needs. It means holding space for others while honoring our own boundaries. It is a dynamic and reciprocal process that strengthens both individuals and communities. Lastly, Redefine Strength invites us to celebrate progress over perfection. The pursuit of perfection is a trap that keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-criticism and comparison. True strength lies in acknowledging our imperfections and choosing to move forward anyway. It is about embracing the journey rather than fixating on the destination. When we celebrate progress, we cultivate a sense of gratitude and resilience that fuels our growth. In redefining strength, we free ourselves from the constraints of outdated narratives and step into a more expansive and authentic way of being. We recognize that strength is not about being unbreakable, it is about being whole. It is about showing up fully, embracing vulnerability, and finding the courage to be our true selves. Boundaries are often misunderstood. They are frequently seen as walls designed to keep people out, as tools of separation, or as signs of selfishness. However, the truth is far from this misconception. Boundaries, when established with intention and clarity, do not distance us from others. They create pathways for healthier, deeper, and more authentic connections. They are not acts of exclusion, but invitations for mutual respect. Setting boundaries is a courageous act of self-awareness and self-respect that ultimately strengthens relationships and fosters meaningful connections. Boundaries, in essence, build bridges. The first step in understanding the bridge-building power of boundaries is recognizing what boundaries truly are. Boundaries are not about control or domination. They are about defining where one person ends and another begins. They are expressions of personal values, needs, and limits. Just as physical bridges allow safe passage over obstacles, boundaries create structured spaces where interactions can flow smoothly without causing harm. They ensure that relationships are built on a foundation of respect rather than obligation, fostering genuine understanding and collaboration. One of the most profound ways boundaries build bridges is by promoting clarity. In any relationship, ambiguity about roles, expectations, or behaviors can lead to tension and misunderstanding. When we set boundaries, we eliminate this uncertainty. For example, in a professional setting, clearly defined boundaries regarding workload and responsibilities can prevent burnout and resentment. Similarly, in personal relationships, boundaries around communication and emotional availability can reduce conflicts and create an atmosphere of trust. By clearly articulating our needs and limits, we provide a roadmap for others to engage with us in ways that are both respectful and constructive. Another key aspect of boundary setting is that it fosters mutual respect. When we set boundaries, we are essentially saying, this is what I need to feel safe and respected in this relationship. This act not only honors our own needs, but also sets a precedent for others to communicate their needs. It creates a dynamic where both parties feel valued and understood. Respect begets respect, and boundaries are the tools that make this possible. They signal that we take ourselves seriously and that we are willing to extend the same consideration to others. Boundaries also play a critical role in emotional health. When we lack boundaries, we often find ourselves overextended, overwhelmed, and resentful. We may say yes when we mean no, or absorb others' emotions and problems at the expense of our own well-being. This dynamic not only harms us, but can also strain our relationships as we become less present, patient, or empathetic. By setting boundaries, we protect our emotional energy and ensure that we can show up fully and authentically in our interactions. This balance allows relationships to flourish because we are engaging from a place of wholeness rather than depletion. Perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of boundaries is overcoming the fear of setting them. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear rejection, conflict, or being perceived as selfish. However, this fear is often rooted in a misunderstanding of what boundaries represent. Setting a boundary is not an act of rejection, it is an act of connection. It communicates to others that we value the relationship enough to want it to thrive in a healthy and sustainable way. While it may initially cause discomfort, particularly if the other person is unaccustomed to boundaries, it ultimately lays the groundwork for a stronger, more balanced relationship. Setting boundaries also requires a high level of self-awareness. Before we can communicate our needs to others, we must first understand them ourselves. This involves reflecting on our values, priorities, and emotional triggers. What are the behaviors or situations that drain us? What makes us feel respected and supported? Taking the time to answer these questions allows us to approach boundary setting with clarity and confidence. It also ensures that our boundaries are authentic and aligned with our true selves, rather than reactive or arbitrary. Another important element of boundary setting is learning to enforce them. A boundary is only as effective as our willingness to uphold it. This can be particularly challenging in relationships where old patterns of behavior are deeply ingrained. However, enforcing boundaries is not about being rigid or punitive, it is about consistency and communication. For example, if a friend repeatedly violates a boundary by showing up unannounced, we can calmly and firmly remind them of our request for advance notice. Over time, this consistency reinforces the boundary and strengthens the relationship by establishing trust and predictability. Boundaries are also essential for fostering personal growth and self-respect. When we set boundaries, we are sending a powerful message to ourselves that our needs matter and that we are worthy of respect. This act of self-validation has a ripple effect, influencing how we see ourselves and how others see us. It empowers us to take ownership of our lives and to engage with others from a place of confidence and authenticity. In this way, boundaries not only build bridges to others, but also strengthen the bridge to ourselves. One of the most beautiful aspects of boundaries is that they allow us to engage with others from a place of generosity rather than obligation. When our own needs are met and our energy is protected, we can give freely without resentment or burnout. This creates a dynamic of mutual giving and receiving that enriches relationships and fosters deeper connection. It transforms interactions from transactional to transformative as both parties feel seen, heard, and valued. In relationships, boundaries are the foundation of trust. They create a safe space where both parties can express themselves honestly without fear of overstepping or being overstepped. This trust is the bedrock of intimacy, whether in friendships, romantic partnerships, or professional collaborations. By respecting each other's boundaries, we affirm our commitment to the relationship and our willingness to navigate its complexities with care and intention. Boundaries also help us navigate conflicts more effectively. When tensions arise, clear boundaries provide a framework for resolving issues in a constructive and respectful manner. They prevent conflicts from escalating by ensuring that both parties understand the limits and expectations of the relationship. This clarity allows for open communication and collaborative problem solving, turning potential divides into opportunities for growth and understanding. Ultimately, boundaries are not about separation, but about connection. They are tools that allow us to engage with others in ways that are sustainable, respectful, and fulfilling. They ensure that our relationships are not built on sacrifice or compromise, but on mutual respect and understanding. In this way, boundaries truly build bridges, creating pathways for deeper and more meaningful connections with others and with ourselves. In the journey of personal and professional development, discomfort plays a significant and often unacknowledged role in shaping our growth. It is easy to assume that progress is a smooth and comfortable path, one where we gradually become better at the things we care about. However, the truth is that growth is often birthed in the very moments when we feel uneasy, challenged, or pushed beyond our comfort zones. Discomfort is not just a temporary hurdle. To overcome it is an essential element in the process of transformation and improvement. In this context, discomfort becomes the catalyst that drives us forward, testing our limits and forcing us to expand our boundaries. The discomfort that fuels growth manifests in many forms, ranging from physical discomfort to emotional and mental challenges. Each type of discomfort serves a unique purpose in the growth process. For example, physical discomfort, whether it be through exercise, long hours of work, or taking on physically demanding tasks, can strengthen our bodies and build endurance. Through pushing our bodies to their limits, we not only increase our physical strength, but also develop resilience, perseverance, and the ability to cope with hardship. The discomfort of exertion and fatigue encourages us to discover new thresholds for what we are capable of, and in doing so, we surpass our former self. On a deeper level, mental and emotional discomfort pushes us to confront our fears, uncertainties, and insecurities. It forces us to question old assumptions, challenge limiting beliefs, and break free from patterns of thinking that have held us back. Emotional discomfort may arise when we face failure, rejection, or criticism, but it is in these moments that we learn the most about ourselves. In times of emotional distress, we often find the strength to adapt, learn new coping mechanisms, and discover inner resources we did not know we had. This growth often occurs slowly and imperceptibly, but it is rooted in our ability to sit with discomfort, tolerate the feelings that arise, and keep moving forward despite them. The idea that discomfort is necessary for growth is not a new one. Many renowned thinkers and philosophers have emphasized the importance of discomfort in their teachings. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, for instance, famously argued that an unexamined life is not worth living. In this sense, Socrates was advocating for a life that is full of inquiry and introspection processes that can often be uncomfortable because they require us to question and critically examine everything we think we know. Personal growth for Socrates was inseparable from the discomfort of confronting challenging questions and ideas that disrupted the status quo of one's beliefs and perceptions. Similarly, modern psychology and self-help frameworks often revolve around the concept of embracing discomfort in order to grow. Psychologist Carl Jung's assertion that what you resist persists captures the essence of how avoiding discomfort only strengthens the very challenges we are trying to avoid. By choosing to face discomfort head-on, we break free from the cycle of resistance, allowing us to grow beyond the limitations we've placed on ourselves. This notion is particularly prevalent in the world of emotional intelligence and mindfulness, where individuals are encouraged to engage with difficult emotions rather than repress them. In doing so, they increase their emotional awareness, develop resilience, and expand their capacity. Learning how to say no is one of the most important, yet often overlooked, skills that anyone can cultivate. In both our personal and professional lives, the ability to say no with grace can be an act of self-respect, boundary setting, and emotional intelligence. It is a skill that, when mastered, not only helps us manage our time, energy, and commitments more effectively, but also allows us to foster healthier relationships and cultivate a sense of control over our lives. Despite these benefits, saying no can be uncomfortable for many people, primarily because it challenges the deeply ingrained tendency to please others and avoid conflict. In our society, there is often a strong emphasis on being agreeable, helpful, and accommodating, especially in both personal and professional settings. From an early age, many of us are conditioned to say yes to every request, believing that doing so will make us more liked, respected, or valued. This desire to be seen as agreeable or dependable leads to an unhealthy pattern of overcommitting and self-sacrifice. Eventually, this can lead to burnout, resentment, and a lack of fulfillment. But learning to say no is essential for preserving our time, energy, and mental well-being. It's not about rejecting others or being dismissive. It's about setting clear boundaries and being honest about what we are capable of at any given time. The key to saying no with grace lies in how we approach the situation. It's important to understand that saying no does not have to be rude or abrupt. In fact, with a little mindfulness and emotional intelligence, we can decline requests in a way that is respectful, kind, and considerate of the other person's feelings by framing our no. In a thoughtful manner, we can avoid unnecessary conflict or hurt feelings while still maintaining our personal boundaries. This means expressing our decision firmly but with empathy so that the other person feels heard and understood, even if their request is not being met. One of the first steps in learning to say no with grace is recognizing that it is okay to put ourselves and our needs first. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear disappointing others or worry that they will appear unhelpful, unkind, or selfish. However, it is crucial to acknowledge that saying no is not inherently negative. In fact, it is an act of self-care and self-preservation. When we say yes to everything, we risk neglecting our own needs, which can lead to stress, resentment, and ultimately a diminished ability to help others in the future. By saying no, we protect our well-being and ensure that we can give our best energy and attention to the commitments that truly align with our values and priorities. Another important aspect of saying no with grace is being clear and direct. Ambiguity or hesitation can leave the other person feeling uncertain about where we stand, which can create confusion or lead to further pressure. When we say no, it's important to be firm in our decision and communicate our boundaries clearly. This does not mean being harsh or blunt, but rather expressing ourselves with clarity and confidence. We don't have to offer long explanations or excuses, which can often come across as insincere or defensive. A simple, straightforward no is often enough, followed by a brief, polite explanation if needed. For example, I'm unable to take this on right now because I'm already committed to other priorities is a clear, respectful way to decline a request. While it's important to be firm, it's equally important to be compassionate. If we are saying no to someone who may be disappointed, expressing empathy can soften the impact. We can acknowledge the other person's needs while also explaining our limitations. A statement like, "I understand that this is important to you and I really wish I could help, but I'm unable to right now," conveys understanding and compassion while still maintaining the boundary. This approach helps ensure that our no is not perceived as rejection, but rather as an honest and respectful response. It's also essential to recognize that saying no can sometimes lead to feelings of guilt. We may feel guilty for disappointing others or for not being able to meet all the expectations placed on us. However, it's important to remind ourselves that we cannot be everything to everyone. By saying no, we are not diminishing our worth or value. Rather, we are reinforcing our commitment to self-care and our personal boundaries. Over time, learning to say no without guilt becomes a valuable practice in self-respect and self-empowerment. In certain situations, saying no may feel particularly challenging, such as when it comes to family or close friends, where emotional ties and a sense of obligation can complicate matters. However, even in these situations, it's important to remember that setting boundaries is a healthy and necessary part of maintaining meaningful relationships. People who truly care about us will understand and respect our limits. Moreover, when we consistently honor our own boundaries, we teach others how to do the same. The more we practice saying no with grace, the easier it becomes, and the more empowered we feel in controlling our own time and energy. At work, the ability to say no with grace is equally important. Many people in professional settings feel compelled to say yes to every task, project, or request, even when they are already stretched thin. While enthusiasm and a willingness to take on new challenges can be valuable traits, overextending ourselves in the workplace can lead to burnout, decreased productivity, and a decline in overall performance. By setting clear boundaries at work and learning to say no when necessary, we are better able to prioritize our most important tasks and maintain a high standard of work. Moreover, saying no at work can demonstrate that we are self-aware, organized, and capable of managing our responsibilities effectively. Ultimately, the ability to say no with grace is a skill that benefits both us and the people around us. It allows us to protect our time, energy, and well-being while still being respectful and compassionate toward others. By embracing the power of saying no, we cultivate a healthier balance in our lives, foster more meaningful relationships, and create space for what truly matters. With practice, saying no becomes not just a skill, but a form of empowerment, one that enables us to live with intention, authenticity, and respect for both ourselves and others. Vulnerability is often perceived as a weakness in a society that places a high value on strength, resilience, and self-sufficiency. In many cultures, there is a tendency to equate vulnerability with fragility or incapacity, which can make it difficult for individuals to embrace this powerful emotional state. We are taught from a young age to hide our weaknesses, to present a facade of confidence, and to avoid exposing any form of emotional rawness. However, embracing vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it is one of the most profound and transformative acts of power that we can engage in. Vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity, courage, and connection, and it is through embracing our vulnerabilities that we grow, evolve, and empower others. At its core, vulnerability is about being open and exposed, allowing ourselves to feel deeply and authentically without the shields we often put up to protect ourselves. It involves taking the emotional risk of being seen for who we truly are without the layers of perfection or control that we so often cling to. Vulnerability requires us to embrace our imperfections and accept that we are not invincible or invulnerable. It calls on us to face our fears, insecurities, and uncertainties, knowing that doing so can lead to personal growth and deeper relationships. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to healing, learning, and meaningful connections with others. One of the most powerful aspects of vulnerability is its ability to foster deep human connection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for others to do the same. In relationships, whether personal or professional, authenticity is the foundation upon which trust and empathy are built. When we share our vulnerabilities, we invite others into our world, demonstrating that we are willing to be seen and understood at our most human. This act of openness helps to break down barriers and allows for the development of genuine, meaningful relationships. Vulnerability connects us, not through our perfection, but through our shared experiences, struggles, and emotions. In the professional world, vulnerability is often seen as a liability or a flaw. Leaders, for instance, are expected to be strong, decisive, and in control at all times. However, many of the most effective leaders are those who show vulnerability, acknowledging their mistakes, uncertainties, and areas for growth. Vulnerability in leadership fosters a culture of openness, humility, and collaboration. When leaders admit that they don't have all the answers or are willing to show their human side, it encourages their teams to do the same. This creates an environment of psychological safety where individuals feel comfortable sharing ideas, taking risks, and being innovative without the fear of judgment or failure. Moreover, vulnerability enables creativity and innovation. When we expose our vulnerabilities, we step out of our comfort zones and confront the unknown. This is where true innovation happens, when we allow ourselves to experiment, fail, and learn from our mistakes. The fear of failure and judgment often holds us back from reaching our full potential, but when we embrace vulnerability, we free ourselves from these fears and open ourselves to new possibilities. It is through vulnerability that we gain the courage to step into uncharted territory, take risks, and create something truly unique. Vulnerability is also essential for personal growth and transformation. It is impossible to grow without acknowledging our weaknesses, insecurities, and areas of discomfort. Personal development requires that we step outside our comfort zones, and that often involves facing difficult emotions and situations. By embracing vulnerability, we invite change and transformation into our lives. We recognize that growth is not about being perfect, but about being willing to face the challenges and discomforts that come with learning, evolving, and becoming the best versions of ourselves. Furthermore, vulnerability is an essential part of emotional resilience. Many people believe that resilience means being strong and unyielding in the face of adversity, but true resilience is about being able to bend and flow with life's challenges. It involves acknowledging our feelings, allowing ourselves to grieve, and accepting help from others when we need it. Vulnerability is a key part of emotional resilience because it enables us to confront our struggles and find strength in our weaknesses. By embracing vulnerability, we give ourselves permission to feel, to heal, and to rise above life's difficulties with greater wisdom and compassion. In addition, vulnerability plays a crucial role in healing and overcoming trauma. Trauma can leave deep emotional scars, and it is often in our most vulnerable moments that we begin the process of healing. Whether it's through therapy, support groups, or personal reflection, vulnerability allows us to process our emotions, express our pain, and find support from others who understand our experiences. Healing requires us to face our wounds openly and with compassion, and vulnerability creates the space for this process to unfold. The more we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, the more we are able to release old patterns, beliefs, and emotional blocks that may have kept us stuck in the past. Another powerful aspect of vulnerability is its ability to inspire others. When we are open about our struggles, challenges, and emotions, we give others permission to do the same. Vulnerability creates a ripple effect, empowering others to step into their own authenticity and embrace their imperfections. By being vulnerable, we become role models for those around us, showing them that it is okay to be human, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. This vulnerability creates a supportive environment where individuals feel safe to express themselves and grow together. Vulnerability also challenges the societal norms and expectations that often prevent us from being our true selves. In many cultures, there is a strong emphasis on self-reliance, independence, and stoicism, which can create pressure to maintain a facade of strength and control. Yet, this emphasis on perfection and invulnerability only perpetuates isolation, fear, and insecurity. When we embrace vulnerability, we challenge these societal constructs and show that true strength lies in our ability to be authentic, compassionate, and open to others. We begin to dismantle the false belief that we must always appear invulnerable, and instead, we embrace the power that comes from embracing our true selves. In the end, vulnerability is not just a state of emotional exposure, it is a powerful force that drives personal growth, deeper relationships, creativity, and resilience. It is the gateway to transformation, healing, and connection. Embracing vulnerability allows us to step into our full potential, face life's challenges with courage, and build a world that is more open, compassionate, and authentic. It is through vulnerability that we find our strength, our voice, and our power. In conclusion, embracing vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a powerful tool for growth, connection, and authenticity. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to deeper relationships, greater self-awareness, and the courage to take risks. Vulnerability fosters resilience, enabling us to navigate challenges with strength and grace. It empowers us to live more fully, embracing all that we are, flaws, fears, and all. By stepping into vulnerability, we unlock our true potential, creating a life that is both rich in connection and empowered by the strength that comes from being authentically ourselves. Thank you.